Hello everyone, my name is Nicole and I would like to start my first video on my channel talking about Wonderful Precure. Decided to start a channel about magical girls, which is something that I've loved for a very long time in my life, ever since childhood. So I figured, what better than to start talking about them with a Wonderful Precure video, as the series has just started airing in Japan. Let's start with the logo of Wonderful. As we know, we get the logo around October, November every year for Precure, and fans love to speculate on it as it provides insight as to what the next type of Precure it will be. What is the theme? The theme happens to incorporate into the logo. So this year is Wonderful Precure, which is animal themed. I know myself and many others thought it was going to be just dogs at first, but then it turns out that it's all animals. Another thing that people speculated on is the logo was originally in hiragana when it's in katakana for the most part, as it is an English word. I didn't really think too much about that, as Precure seasons, they can do whatever they want. They change stuff all the time, so it wasn't a big deal to me. Some people thought that the logo looked too childish. The speculation for many people was that it was going to be a series that was aimed for younger kids, as it deals with animals. The logo is very bubbly, it's very bouncy. Unlike last season, Hirogaru Precure, it was a sharp, kind of stylized, very cool looking logo. Then we got the leaks. Leak season is something that all Precure fans look forward to. It seems like they're leaked from overseas merch manufacturers of Precure. A lot of people thought that the leaks were fake. This time we have mini purses with the 4 main characters on them. We have names on the purses as well. Wonderful, Nyami, Friendy, and Lillian. Many people thought that it was fake just because of that, as they don't understand how Nyami could possibly be the name of a cure, as usually the names kind of make a lot of sense, but they felt that Nyami wasn't a word, Friendy wasn't a word. They didn't understand Lillian. Lillian is a reference to a type of yarn spool used in Japan for knitting, which is kind of resembles a lily flower, and it gets shorthanded from lily yarn into Lilian. It's easy for me to tell that the leaks were immediately real because those names are so unique and so oddly specific that I felt like they had to be real, because who would make those up? And as per usual, every year there is a children's magazine in Japan called Tanoshi Yochien, and they reveal the silhouettes for the next Precure. And the silhouettes that they revealed coincided with the leaks. So we knew that the leaks were real. Something that people really, really loved was the fact that Lillian seemed to be teal and also green. The silhouettes signify the color that the cures are. There was a almost grass green like silhouette for Cure Lillian, but as we saw in the leak, her design was teal. The website dropped and the designs were confirmed. Many were disappointed that Lillian was not a true green cure. She was teal. As we know, in Japan, some teal colors and some blue colors are called green. So it's still classified as green. But if you're on the western side of Precure fandom, the green is a color that's highly debated. A lot of people don't think there's enough green cures. They are always gunning for a green cure to be in the next season of Precure. And so this year, we are pleasantly surprised by the teal. Another thing that fans were surprised about was Satoru, who is a male character who is in the main cast. On the website, he has his own profile, and we have his pet, which is a rabbit, called Daifuku. So this immediately starts speculation that Satoru and Daifuku are going to be the mid-season cures. It'd be really fun to have a mid-season duo, as we haven't had that since Hugto Precure. Then we have the Kirarin animals. I really, really, really love the swan Kirarin animal. I am a bird lover for sure. I'm looking forward to that character. Going on to the opening. The opening is one of the most beautiful openings I've seen in a Precure season. They really brought their A game. It's incredibly beautiful. I can't stop. Every time the opening comes on, I can't skip it. It's absolutely wonderful. One thing that people noticed was it focused heavily on Komugi and Iroha and their friendship. There's not that much Lillian or Nyami, and Nyami's civilian form, or what we think is Nyami's civilian form, is grayed out almost. You can't really see it. One user on Twitter commented that there's two gaps at the middle part of the opening when the Cures are jumping up, that there's a gap between Wonderful and Yami and Lillian and Friendy. Who knows? Maybe they could be placeholders for the mid-season cure, as we know that they do that often in Precure. They add the mid-season cures into the opening as soon as they're revealed. Also, another thing that people saw was there was no villains other than the Garu Garu animals in the opening. But this doesn't mean much because in previous seasons, there's not always villains in the opening, so that isn't an indicator that there's going to be no villains. So let's start with episode 1. In the very beginning of the episode, we see a lot of montages of animals, and then we see Komugi, from her point of view, wake up Iroha by jumping on her. We're introduced then to Iroha's parents as they go out for their morning walk. Already, I was surprised because I thought that Iroha would be kind of like a Sango or Machiro character, kind of reserved, very calm, collected for the most part, but Iroha has main character energy, and Komugi seems to have main character energy, so they even eat at the same time. Also, the mom is really hot. Now we're seeing Komugi's separation anxiety as she tries to get Iroha not to leave for school. I know when I leave for work in the morning, and I take one last look at my cat as I'm shutting the door, and it's the worst feeling in the world. I love that the dad wears an apron. I think that's adorable and cool. She even turns to wave at Komugi from the window, which is something I also do with my cat. Komugi desperately wants to join Iroha wherever she goes, but she can't because she's a dog. I get it, girl. I get it. I wish I could bring my cat to work with me. Now we have a cracked jewel and a sheep about to die. What's going on? Oh my god. We see animals turn into eggs, and we see a sheep about to pass out, and then we're back to the Inukai's house. Komugi's having a dream about being a human walking hand in hand with Iroha. But then Iroha gets called by her friends and she leaves Komugi. She says, "You stay here." So finally Iroha comes home and they go out for a little walk. So we see Iroha and Komugi coming upon something called the Mirror Stone in the center of town. As Satoru and Daifuku, we see them for the first time. There's already an established friendship between Satoru and Iroha. Satoru gives off kind of the impression that he has a massive crush on Iroha, which is very, very interesting, depending on how they do this in the series. As you've seen in earlier Precure seasons, sometimes it's not handled very well. I'm rooting for you, Satoru. Daifuku is played to be quite mysterious. They seem to know more than they let on, almost like they know something. Satoru deduces that the Mirror Stone may have been used in a ceremony many years ago, which is something to keep an eye on for future episodes. Obviously, the Mirror Stone's going to have a big part in the series. The legend says that if you see a reflection in the stone, that your wish will come true. And when Komugi looks into the stone, she sees only her shadow. But when she turns away in sadness, we see a reflection for a second. The next scene, we're greeted with Yuki and Mayu, which is a pleasant surprise for a lot of us. We're not expecting to see them in the show so early on. Mayu, who some thought would be kind of like a Cure Spicy clone, more reserved, like Anj from Hugto. But we're proven wrong because she's a huge nerd and she's completely shy to the point of hiding when Iroha walks by and waves to Yuki in the window. She's also super, super affectionate and hilarious in her interactions with Yuki. It's almost like a role reversal from Iroha and Komugi. We see that Yuki is kind of like the calm and collected type, and then we have Mayu, who is kind of like the frantic girl. And then we hop over to the dog park. We have a scene with a large yellow and black egg in a forest. It begins to crack and there's a kid with his dog walking by. Komugi and Iroha are playing fetch in the dog run, and Komugi happens upon a small stone with a mirror-like appearance. How did it get there? We don't know. It just appeared. Is it part of the mirror stone? Komugi and the animal start sounding off as the egg hatches into a purple mist and becomes a huge evil goat that turns on the child and the dog from earlier. So Iroha goes to rescue them with her courage, and Komugi decides she needs to protect Iroha and runs into battle as well as transforming into a girl and a Precure. So we have her running, Komugi crying, a close-up, and then not only does she instantly become a girl, she then immediately becomes a Precure. So we have these two scenes back to back. The transformation sequence is really pretty. It's really fast. It's very quick. And the countdown, 3, 2, 1, that reminds me a lot of the anime Saint Tail. She also has a 1, 2, 3 count in her transformation. It's incredibly beautifully animated, don't get me wrong. And there's wonderful blending between 3D and 2D that looks incredible. However, there's one aspect that bothers me about the transformation. There's so much going on the screen. There's all these neon bows at the corner in the side, and it's a lot of visually, it gives me, it feels cluttered, and I don't know. That part I didn't like, but everything else about it I loved. I love the pose. It's just very fast and cool. I appreciate the fast transformations. And then we cut back to Iroha. She's too stunned to move as Cure Wonderful creates a paw-shaped, almost gummy-like shield and forces the Gato Gato monster away and chases after him. Because Komugi is a dog and because the enemy is an animal as well, she sympathizes with them, and she thinks to herself, we need to have a chat. So she very sympathetically talks to the bad guy or the bad animal and says, hey, I can see you're scared, you're injured. I was scared and injured too. And there's a really nice flashback of Komugi meeting Iroha. She goes up and she hugs the enemy, and it's absolutely the cutest thing I've ever seen. And it is reverted into a sheep who's unconscious as Iroha catches up and is like, oh my god, who are you? What is this? Komugi immediately calls her name, and the two exchange the hi-fi shake and fist bump routine that they do every day. So Iroha now knows it's Komugi, and then the episode ends. I really enjoyed this episode. I genuinely love always first episodes of Precure, but this one, it has so much high energy. It has great characters. Komugi and Iroha are both featured equally in the episode, so it kind of feels like there's almost like a dual partnership of heroines. The ending is your standard dance sequence, but the song I really like. The song's very high energy. So with episode 2, it starts off from where episode 1 left off, which is with an unconscious sheep on the ground that was the enemy that Komugi fought. And then we learn immediately that he's actually a mentor type fairy, just like Chodo was from Kira Kira Precure. Kind of like an older man, like stern. He immediately goes into his spiel by telling them that his name is Meme. He is a sheep butler, and he's from something called the Nico Garden, which is like an animal paradise land that's recently come under dark forces, and it's turning the animals into something like Garu Garu. Komugi notices that the enemy said Garu Garu, so that's what they refer to them as. So from now on, they're named the Garu Garu. He tells Komugi that she must use the Wonderful Pack to return peace to the Nico Garden. But all Komugi wants to do is talk to Iroha. She became a human girl because of Iroha. She wants to be with Iroha. She became a Precure to save Iroha. Meme tells the girls that they can't talk about the Nico Garden, the Precure, or anything about him to anyone. Then Meme jumps into the Nico trunk and disappears as he is quite tired. After the scene, we learn that Komugi can conveniently transform back into a dog at will. So that eliminates the awkward conversation that we've had in previous Precure series where the main character has to go up to the parents and the parents give in immediately, which is never believable in my opinion. But this episode is going to focus on Iroha being concerned about Komugi putting herself in danger as a precure to save the Nico Garden. She doesn't want Komugi to face any danger, as we get a flashback scene of Iroha rescuing Komugi from under a bush in the rain. We then learn that Komugi is able to talk as a dog, which is hilarious. It's funny. I'm glad that she is able to talk as a dog. Sometimes in Precure, the fairies can't talk. They can only say their own name. I love it. No shade to Kururun, who is my favorite fairy. So the next scene, we have Mayu from last episode shopping in Iroha's family store for a bow for her cat Yuki. She gushes to Iroha's dad about Yuki. She loves Yuki. She says she's so cute, she's so fluffy. This bow will be perfect for her. It's a little snowflake emblem on it, which, because her name is Yuki, which means snow in Japanese. Then we have Satoru and Iroha walk in, and then Mayu runs away because she has a hard time talking to people her age, I guess. She was able to talk to Iroha's dad, but she can't talk to people her age. She's very shy. So Iroha's parents, the shop that they live in is a veterinarian / grooming business. I guess the dad grooms the animals and the mother is a vet. So you can get 2 services in one, and they also have a dog run in their yard. So Iroha and Satoru go out into the yard, and there's a cute scene of Daifuku and Komugi running around. Oh man, they are very cute. But Iroha laments in her inner monologue how she wants to speak to Satoru about what just happened, the precure, Komugi becoming a human, the Nico Garden, the sheep butler fairy. She can't talk to anyone about this other than Komugi. She wants to speak to him about it, but she can't because Meme won't let her. He says it's forbidden. Satoru says to Iroha that he is much like her in the way that he wants to learn about all the animals of the world, which Iroha's like, man, I really wish I could talk to him about this. He knows so much, like he could really help us. And then somewhere an egg starts breaking open, a gado egg in the city, and all the animals in town start howling again. There's a very funny scene of Satoru noticing Komugi speak, but then Iroha grabs her and runs away, and there is a huge garu ostrich enemy wreaking havoc on the channel by the water. There's a sweet scene where Komugi tells Iroha that her love lifted her out of the darkness and her life became wonderful just by meeting Iroha. And then she transforms and chases the garu. She's injured. As she tries to chase it, Iroha chases after them, wanting to help Komugi, and the mirror stone appears before her as a wonderful pact as she transforms. The mirror stone appeared before her this time, where in the first episode Komugi just happens upon it, so maybe it places itself where it wants to. We don't know. It's very mysterious. This transformation is also very beautiful like the last one, but it's also extremely overstimulating for me. There's so much going on. There's so many neon bows on the screen. I just want to see the transformation without the stuff on the screen. And there's also a weird sequence at the end of the transformation where she's kind of like running and then hops a little bit towards the screen. It looks awkward. But again, like the other transformation, it's gorgeous. I love it. There's very little to complain about it. It's amazing. The animation is incredibly fluid, dynamic, impressive. Very impressive. So Wonderful and Friendy chase the ostrich with the precure speed. Friendy calls out to the ostrich that she understands the situation about the Nico animals being possessed and that she wants to help. They're only here to help. They don't want to fight. The garu starts hitting its head over and over again on a building, which is very sad. And then Friendy and Wonderful hug the ostrich until it calms down and heals. And honestly, this is my favorite part of both episodes, when they hug the animal. I want to hug an ostrich so bad. I mentioned before that I love birds, but oh my god, it has to be so soft. And that is a genuine bucket list item for me. So the ostrich falls down tired, and the girls call Meme out of his prison, his trunk, to help. Maybe sees that Iroha's wonderful pact as a Precure, so he's like, oh my god, you're a Precure? What? So Mei tells the girls that they should all go to the Nico Garden through the trunk. You can go to the Nico Garden through the trunk? Why didn't you tell us that before, Mei? So they jump in and then the episode ends. This episode is incredibly energetic. It's chaotic. It's everything I love about Precure. It's just like the first episode. I have nothing to complain about it. There's so much personality with Komugi and Iroha's interactions. I love Mayu and Yuki. I love that they're being incorporated into the episodes. It makes the show really refreshing and upbeat. You just can't help but smile. The episodes go by so fast also because I'm so invested in these characters. It's great to watch. The animation is very beautiful too. So we have episode 3. We have a portal from the Nico trunk into the Nico Garden. It's a lot like the Spyro the Dragon portal or a Minecraft portal into the Nether Realm. Now the girls are in Nico Garden and Komugi is just so cute. She immediately transforms into a dog so she can run around the Nico Garden because it's so open, it's so beautiful. It's like an animal paradise. Something that is very funny that they do in Precure. In the Nico Garden, there is a fruit that conveniently looks like a certain type of gummy that they sell at the store. It's called a Nico fruit. It's given to the animals to heal. So the Nico animals can eat them and then they feel much better after they eat them. So, hey honey. Even though the Nico animals can eat them and feel better, Iroha's like, no, you can't eat this. You are a dog. Because what would happen if kids gave their dogs gummies? I guess that wouldn't be very good. So Iroha tells Komugi, you can't eat this, you're a dog. So Komugi says, oh, okay, I'll just become a girl. And then we get a scene of stock footage transforming into a human. Don't feed gummies to your pets, kids. Don't do it. Make sure they transform into a human first before you feed them the gummy. Iroha observes that animals are slightly different from the ones on Earth. And Mei says, yes, these are Nico animals. They were originally from Earth, but then they were brought to the Nico Garden for healing. So all the animals that are in Nico Garden were once on Earth. Interesting. And then we have someone called Nico-sama, who was the one who brought the animals to this Nico land. But then we learned that he went missing along with some of the animals. Iroha and Komugi they seem to not want to pay attention to Mei. Every time he's explaining something, they just immediately go into their own world. It makes sense because they're both 12, and I was the same way when I was 12, and you just want to hang out with your best friend. You don't really care about much. Iroha brings up Satoru to Mei, and she says, I have this friend. He's very knowledgeable about animals. Can we please tell him about this? I think he could help. But Mei says, no, you can't. I'll get in trouble. Nico-san will be super mad at me and I'll be scolded. And then later we see Iroha and Komugi meet up with Satoru, and she apologizes for running out on Satoru in the episode when they were at the dog run last time. She laments about how bad she feels about keeping secrets from him. Nobody wants to keep secrets from their best friend. Satoru also is lamenting on his own inside of his head. He's like, oh, she's keeping secrets from me. Am I not trustworthy? Am I not actually a good friend to confide in? Daifuku perks up and they both discover a garu-garu egg in the brush. And Satoru sketches it to document it instead of taking a photo. I guess he doesn't own a cell phone or something. He just sketches it. Or maybe he just loves drawing. He loves observing. Daifuku pulls the leash to get Satoru away from the egg because Daifuku notices something is wrong with it, and they return home. Daifuku, man, thank you, you're a real one. Iroha and Komugi go on a walk to sniff out the garu-garus. They're like, we need to find them, we need to purify the Nico Garden. We should go and you can sniff them out and find them so we can defeat them and bring them back to Nico Garden. And then we have Satoru returning to the forest the next day to find the egg again. But instead, as he's chased by a large garu-garu rabbit, he's like, what the heck is going on here? This is a large... I've never seen this animal before. I think I know about all animals, and then there's just a giant rabbit. Iroha runs up And she doesn't care about transforming in front of Satoru. She's like, this is my friend. I have to save him. It doesn't matter. Who cares what Mei thinks? And immediately transforms as a Precure in front of Satoru because she needs to save his life. Satoru tells the girls that the garu is a rabbit with how it behaves as he's thumping its foot, which is something that rabbits do when they're irritated. Very quickly, Iroha and Komugi are able to hug it back to normal, and it becomes a tiny rabbit who fits in the palm of their hand, and it can speak, unlike the ostrich. The ostrich was just saying its name, but this rabbit can speak, and he's got a jewel on his head. Then when returning to the Nico garden, the girls ask Mei about the rabbit, and he tells them that it's a super special Kirarin animal. Another thing to notice is Satoru is in the garden with them. He came with them. And Mei is really mad at them. And he's like, what the heck? I told you not to bring anyone here, but you immediately brought someone here the day after. But Mei immediately realizes that Satoru is the only one who actually cares and listens to him. And then there's something that Satoru says that's super interesting, which is he says in a plea to have Mei accept him, he says, my feelings are the same as the feelings of the Precure. I want to protect the Nico garden. Please accept me. Which is, he has the same feelings as the Precure. Could he become a Precure one day? My thoughts on this episode is different. It's much different from the high energy of the first two episodes. Like my friend Magical Cinnamon said in his video, there's two scenes in it that really don't add to the story at all, which is there is a scene of Satoru and Daifuku in his room, not really doing anything. It doesn't really add. He's looking up pictures of eggs online, but that's not really anything that adds to it. And there's a scene where Iroha and Komugi see ducks at a park, and they're like, hey, these are ducks. And then the scene ends, and it has nothing to do with it. But the chase scene this episode was also lacking. I mean, if you're gonna replace battles with chase scenes, I felt like this episode didn't really bring it in that respect, but hopefully the next episode will bump it up. It kind of only lasted for a minute, but hopefully we'll get another high energy episode next. So around episode 3 or 4, an article came out in Animage that was already hypothesized by fans. The fans kind of already knew, but this just confirmed it. Takashi Washio, the main producer of the original Precure season, stated that this season of Wonderful Precure would be focusing on, in his own words, chase action instead of physical fighting. They wanted to move away from physical fighting into the chase action for this season. He's also the same person who proposed the main themes and ideas for Futariwa to prove that little girls can also let loose and fight. And he's worked on most of the previous Precure seasons in the staff, and even in All Stars F, which last year just came out. So it's safe to say that the battles will continue next season. I'm not too worried about it. Obviously, Precure is about fighting, right? But this man, he is so important to the Precure franchise. They're not just going to do away with it. But it was very, very controversial thing to do because Precure is based upon fighting, and to take it out is a very interesting decision. Me, myself, I don't mind it because I know it's just going to be back next season. But a lot of people are upset about that. In the first episode, we see Komugi sympathizing with the garu because she's also an animal who has known pain. She doesn't want to hurt her kind, and she uses love and understanding instead of the physical fighting. And Iroha's family owns a clinic for animals, so Iroha kicking the garu doesn't make much sense. This is just my opinion, but I think that this season is a way to kind of cash in on the popularity of this show called Catch Teeny Ping, which is a Korean cartoon that is rising in popularity both in Japan and the US. And it's a show that focuses on catching the pings, which are little animal fairies that have powers that the main character can then use after she catches to help catch the other pings. My best friend's daughters are obsessed with this show. It's super fun. They watch it in Japanese, so it's popular in Japan. I personally don't like it, but the numbers don't lie, and I'm not the target audience, so it doesn't matter what I think. It's popular. If it gets kids to run and play and chase each other and hug each other in a fun new way, then what's the hurt? Like, who am I to complain about that? After all, Precure is a children's show. It's for toddlers. one of the main selling points of the show is incorporating play with the show. At the end of the day, Precure is both an anime and a toy manufacturer almost. So finding a way to sell items in new and interesting ways, as well as appealing to connecting with kids through play, is a main goal. Every year it's tested. They're taking critiques from parents and kids. They're trying to always find something to incorporate into kids' play. Every year, different ideas. It's not like they were born yesterday. They knew this was going to be a controversial thing, but it's something that they wanted to do, and I trust them with it because I love Precure. Even the Precure seasons that I didn't really like, I still genuinely enjoy it for what it is. So episode 4, we open with Mayu and Yuki, and I have to say, as a cat lover and a cat owner, I would like to clarify that upon seeing the initial designs for the cures, my immediate favorite was Nyami. I'm biased towards her. She might be my favorite cure of the season, even though she hasn't even debuted yet. We don't know anything about her, but we shall see. Cure Wonderful is doing a great job of competing against her. I love Cure Wonderful. Out of her and Friendy, Wonderful's my favorite. I love her nonsense. So we have Mayu's mother, who's opening up her Pretty Holic store, which is attached to their house. So they own a shop on the bottom and their house is on top. And it's Pretty Holic, which, if you don't know, Pretty Holic is the makeup brand that coincides with Precure. They sell the makeup in real life and in the show. Mayu's really worried. She's worrying nobody will show up with her high anxiety. Girl, I understand you. I understand completely. Also, she's exactly like me when she shoves her face into her cat and inhales. Satoru and Iroha are mapping out where all the Garugaros are seen in Animal Town. Then they enter Nico Garden, and the Kidorin rabbit from the last episode is in pretty good spirits. And there's a scene where the Kidorin rabbit is able to raise a mini island with a house out of the Nico Lake and into the sky to help repair a giant jewel in the middle of the land. Yeah, I don't know either. And at the bottom of the mini island, it has jewels in it that shoot beams to repair stuff. One of the things it repairs is something that looks like a teacup ride, which is hilarious when you think about a lion and an ostrich riding in a teacup ride. Seriously, think about that. The raccoons aren't happy about the restoration because they hate teacup rides. But Iroha and Komugi, they don't care even a little bit. You know, for people who love animals, they sure don't care about the lore of the Nico Garden, and they don't give a crap about Meimei. Satoru does though, and Meimei loves him for it. Maybe you should make Satoru a cure. Maybe. But who cares, because Pretty Holic is opening today. That's why the girls have to leave. They gotta be the first customers to ever grace the steps. And she is, because we see Mayu and Iroha properly introduced and meet for the first time. Iroha remembers Yuki, the cat from the window, in the first episode. They're about to enter the Pretty Holic shop, but they're stopped because this is Animal Town. What do you mean there's no dogs allowed? It's a funny scene because Komugi's human-like disappointed reaction is noticed by Mayu for a second. And when they walk away in a parking lot, Komugi is having a temper tantrum and then realizes that she can transform into a girl and go into the Pretty Holic store. So that's what they do. But when Komugi introduces herself with the same name as the dog they just introduced, it's kind of awkward. But surely it's just a coincidence. Surely it is a coincidence, Mayu. You're overthinking things. And you insert the makeup that you can buy, the Pretty Holic makeup. Isn't it beautiful, everyone? Mayu's mother has Mayu demonstrate the makeup to Iroha since she's inexperienced with it. Apparently, Mayu is very good with makeup and she applies it to Iroha. And she's concentrating so much on perfecting Iroha's makeup that she doesn't notice that she's not responding to Iroha's questions. But thankfully, Iroha is very intuitive and very understanding, and she knows this. She compliments Mayu on her concentration. Meanwhile, Komugi goes to annoy Yuki. She says everything she's thinking to Yuki, including that she is a dog who became a person, But Yuki seems unsurprised by her reaction, which also makes me think maybe Yuki knows more about the Nico garden. So after the shop, Iroha remarks that she's excited to see her at school. Mayu looks uneasy at the mention of school, and Iroha takes notice of that. On their walk home, Komugi detects a whiff of egg in the air as they rush to the scene. This time the garu is like smaller, so they transform, they chase after it. Also, during this scene, they cut to Mayu wondering out loud if she'll be able to be friends with Iroha. She's very unsure. Then we see a melancholy still flashback of Mayu at school. Something must have happened to her before she moved. Something to make her uneasy about school and the mention of it. As Iroha and Komugi chase the garu, Iroha realizes that the zigzag pattern which the animal runs is a sign of being frightened. She's reminded of Mayu's feeling sad and alone in a new town with no one to rely on. So they decide to try and talk to the garu, but it flees in the oncoming traffic. Then Iroha dives down to save it. We see Komugi make something called a puni barrier to stop the truck, and it looks like a giant gummy. It looks very delicious. And this is the scene in the show that I can't get enough of. This is the cutest thing I have ever seen in Precure. Iroha and Komugi get down on their knees and they hug the garu back into an animal again. It is so cute. Oh my gosh, it's so sweet. It's so comforting. The music they play when they're hugging the animal back is such a beautiful, sweet melody. I can't take it. It's so cute. I want to hug a garu so bad. They look so fluffy. There is a cut scene for the first time that we see Iroha holding up the little Nico trunk and coaxing the reformed garu into the trunk to go to the Nico garden to heal. It's a beautifully animated cutscene, and yeah, there's a lot of cutscenes so far in Wonderful Precure, but I can't be mad at it. It looks great. Also, apparently the raccoons / tanukis weren't sad about the teacup ride. They were sad about their family member being gone, but they're happy again. And again, we see Meme being ignored. Poor Meme. We love him. I'd listen to him. Make me a Precure. And yes, Meme has a sheep phone to communicate to Komugi and Iroha through the Nico trunk. Meme, I am so sorry you're being ignored. But he's being ignored for a reason. Also, he can call Satoru for moral support, and we do learn that Satoru has a phone, so why didn't he take a picture of the egg? Iroha and Komugi rush to Mayu to give her a gift. It's something they call an osampo bag, a strolling bag. Now on sale, by the way, in Iroha's family shop and in Japanese toy stores. There's a little Yuki-chan keychain on the bag. And Mayu and Iroha have matching bags. This is a very great episode, my favorite by far. I love to see Mayu interacting with Iroha so early on in the season. Iroha is a really thoughtful and nice person, except to Meme. She seems to have great intuition, and she understands Mayu without Mayu having to say anything. She realized that Mayu is down in the dumps, and she brought her a present. Awesome of you, Iroha. Thank you. So on to episode 5. Out on a walk in the early morning, Iroha and Komugi run into a little girl with her mother, and they're both struggling to get their adorable, albeit weird-looking puppy to walk. The puppy is very cute, but I don't know, something about it is very strange-looking. Iroha asks if they would like to stop by the friendly salon for advice. The puppy, Ponchan, hates going on walks. Iroha and Iroha's father give the family advice on how to ease Ponchan into enjoying walks. Komugi gloats inwardly about how she has liked walks from the very beginning, but Iroha tells the mother and daughter that Komugi did struggle at first with the leash when she first came to stay with the Inukais. Komugi needed to be introduced slowly to the leash / harness gradually until she was able to walk with Iroha. A leash is a sign of trust between the owner and the animal. It's a connected bond between the two. Later that day, Komugi remarks that she forgot that she didn't take to the leash training quickly. I guess because she's a dog, she has trouble remembering or something. This might be a plot point that comes later on, or maybe it's just because Komugi was a small puppy and doesn't remember as much of that time. Like humans don't remember being babies, and they don't remember much about being 2 or 3. It could be just that, we don't know. Iroha has a flashback of the time Komugi was injured and in the care of the Iroha's veterinary clinic. She was bandaged up and she wouldn't open up. Iroha asks her mother if they can keep Komugi, but Miss Inukai says that Komugi has a collar, which is an indication of her having a home and a family. and that they should try and find their previous owner to return her to. Miss Inukai tells Komugi that not only is she injured in body, but she's injured in spirit. Was she abandoned? She's been through tough times. She was attacked by something. She's hurt. But Iroha says, hey, can we please take care of this animal anyways while we find the original owners? And Miss Inukai says, Iroha, one day you might have to have a painful goodbye. You're going to get attached to Komugi, and you have to understand that someday there is a chance that the original owners will come back and you'll have to say goodbye to Komugi. Are you prepared for that sad goodbye? But Iroha confirms that she's ready for whenever that may be. She wants to be with Komugi no matter what. And as time goes by, Iroha is doing her best to befriend and care for Komugi, even keeping a journal of the progress that Komugi is making. And she's even sleeping on a futon by her cage, which is really adorable. You can tell that Iroha really put in the work to care for Komugi and build that bond and that friendship. Eventually, Iroha picks out a leash that would be good for Komugi, and Komugi accepts the leash. Iroha asks Komugi in the present why she accepted the leash, and Komugi says it's because it was chosen by you. That's why. And she felt the leash brought her closer to Iroha. It's a physical connection between the two of them of trust and love. It's also an interesting scene because it's not stated whether Komugi's past owners ever cared for her or were contacted at all in that time. We don't know anything about the past owners, which I assume that the amount of time Komugi has been with the Inukais is about 1 or 2 years, and it also might be a future plot point to look out for as the previous owners wanting Komugi back. That might be some kind of conflict in the future. The next scene, we have Mayu excitedly waving around the Osampo bag that Iroha gave her. Very cute. And she wants to give Iroha a gift in return. And then she takes a big old whiff of Yuki. She sticks her face in Yuki, as all cat owners do. It's true, we all do that. And by the way, my cat smells the best, and she smells like the wings of an angel. Then there's a garu-garu hatching in the town, and the animals need saving. So Satoru's already at the site of the garu-garu. I guess he's just there, and I assume that Daifuku led him there because Daifuku is an animal and can sense the garu-garu, but no, Daifuku is not there, I guess. It doesn't really matter because it's a kid's show and we're not supposed to think about it, but there's a giant iceberg in the middle of the Animal Town Sea, and the garu-garu of the week is an evil penguin. So this chase scene revolves around the girls having to navigate the ice terrain together and thinking of ways to catch the garu-garu without falling into the icy water. And we get a weird monologue from Satoru, who is alone on the beach talking to himself about the way penguins swim with great speed in the water. He's talking to himself. That's fine, he's talking to us. The powerful beam that the garu-garu shoots makes a bridge of ice, and Iroha says that the garu-garu looks tired from exerting itself from making the beam as it slides towards the town. So the bridge is breaking. Komugi decides to jump up and land on the garu-garu. The bridge breaks. Komugi hurtles towards the icy water. And in an attempt to save her, the Mirror Pact produces Komugi's leash between them to bind them together. It wraps around both the wrists, and Iroha is able to save Komugi from the icy water. This leash makes Komugi realize that holding hands as humans is much like a leash between animals and their owners. So when Komugi is a human, she can just hold hands with Iroha, and it's much like a leash. The mirror stone flashes again, and Komugi and Iroha are transported into this kind of space, this magical space, and there's another gift that's given to them. The leash transforms into 2 different wands/tacts. It's called the Friendly Tact, or some subtitles say the Friendly Wand, even though tact is an English/French word and has been used before in Precure. There's a lot of weapons that are called tacts, but I guess nobody knows what that is. 2 tacts appear, and Iroha grabs one as the Kirurin rabbit that was helped earlier offers to give her the power of a rabbit. And then we have some more beautiful stock footage of Iroha using the wand, because she is the actual main lead of the series, if you haven't noticed by now. Hooray, hooray, friendy. You gotta love a good Hugto Curiel reference. Love that. And help Kirarin animal is the phrase she uses, and the tact produces headphone-like ears with super sensitive hearing to allow Iroha to better sense where the garu-garu is. And even though a wand was produced for Komugi. When she tries to use it, nothing happens. She can't use the wand because she's not the main character. Then the girls jump to catch the Garu Garu, and he immediately gives up. There's a really fast, jarring cutscene to a new penguin Kidorin animal, which was the Garu Garu. And the stock footage again to call the little Kidorin penguin into the trunk and then into the Nico garden for healing. And there's a super cute moment of Satoru telling Iroha that when she's happy, he's happy. Oh, Satoru. But when will Komugi be able to use the tact too? Komugi wonders. She's like, why can't I use the tact? What the heck? I know. I understand, Komugi, because you transformed into a Precure first. Why does Friendy get it before you? Poor thing. And then we might find out next episode. That's the first 5 episodes of Precure. And my afterthoughts are, I love the characters, the friendship between Komugi and Iroha, amazing. They really feel like sisters. It's a pre-established relationship, but because Komugi has just gained the ability to speak, it's almost like they just met each other again for the first time. I know that a lot of fans don't like the chase sequences replacing the battles. It's fair, it's valid, it doesn't bother me personally, but I completely understand. Episode 5 showed us that they can do dramatic chase scenes without punching and kicking, as this episode has a lot of action that made up for maybe the past 2 episodes where there wasn't that much action. The show's done a very good job of balancing the lack of fights with character interactions. We're getting strong character moments every episode. Another thing is there's a lot of stock footage. We have Komugi becoming a human dog. We have the transformations. We have coaxing the Garu Garu into the trunk. And then we have the friendly tact, bringing it out. And then we have calling the Kidorin animal to use their wand. That's a lot, but we'll see in the future. It's the beginning of the Precure season. We can't be mad about it yet, right? Another thing is, this might just be me, but I think the Garu Garu are much cuter evil than they are as animals and Kidorin animals. Usually the Precure enemies of the week are just like dark blobs that are the random object of the week with an evil face. But this time they're like extremely cute. They're adorable. I'm sad when they're not evil anymore because they're so much cuter that way. I just want to hug all the Garu Garu animals. Oh my gosh. We don't have confirmation of when Lillian and Nyami will debut. This makes me sad because obviously, like I said before, Nyami is my visual favorite. She is everything I love about Precure designs. She has the cat theme going on. I'm looking forward to her debut. It's most likely going to be late May, early June, which puts them in the kind of same time frame that Butterfly debuted. When we think about mid-season cures, where originally they debuted around June, we might have a later release date for the mid-season, or like how Majesty was debuted, I think September or August. We might see the mid-season cures there, so that's something to look out for. Thank you for watching my video, my first video ever. I appreciate anyone who watches the video, even if it's just one person. I made this channel just to spread the word of Precure. I wanted to be just another face in the void. I'm not doing this for fame or recognition or anything. I just want to talk about Precure. I want to scream into the void. I want to be another Precure content creator, and I hope that I'm able to spread the message of magical girls everywhere. So thank you for watching. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will see you again soon, and I'll look forward to more Precure with you guys. All right. Thank you very much. See you.